All right, everybody, welcome to the Professional Nerds podcast, where serious shit... fuck it. Professional Nerds. We're totally professional. I don't flub my lines. You wouldn't think I talk for a living, would you? Anyway, we're nerds. We're here. We're talking about stuff. And today we're talking about Wolverine, and more specifically, Cyber. If you don't know who Cyber is, that is entirely the correct response.
Good, because I don't know who Cyber is.
Yeah, that's entirely fair. So what brought this about was Van sent me a message as we were kind of planning what to do for the podcast, and my idea was just, I know a lot about comics. You guys send me a thing of like, who the fuck is this character? And I will learn about that character and tell you who, in fact, the fuck they are. So Van did that. Van saw a thing online about a character who traumatized Wolverine and wanted to know about it. And I immediately recognized him and went, wow, he's kind of boring. But okay, sure. And, I need an excuse to buy more comics. And by the way, I should note, for any of you out there in, I'm going to say Radio Land, because I like old-fashioned shit, but Podcast Land, I understand.
Radio!
If, depending on who the audience of this podcast is, some of you have fond old memories of radio back in the day. Many of you don't know who that is. Hey.
You said fond old memories.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what it came out to was fondled memories.
Look, my brain operates at one speed and my mouth at another, and sometimes the two don't always match.
That's what she said.
That is indeed what she said.
So, back on topic. To be fair, I don't know if he's boring or not, but he traumatized Wolverine.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, that's a legit, that sounds interesting, but it turns out he's actually kind of boring. But I was going to say,
let's talk about it for an hour. Yeah. Why is he boring, Ryan?
Well, real quick, anybody who's listening, if you want to know about a character, feel free to drop a line in the comments or DM us on any socials that we eventually set up. We don't have them yet. But send us a message, send us a comment, and ask who the hell is this character, and I will be happy to, figure them out. Because I definitely need an excuse to buy more comics. I don't have enough. I only have the 5 bookshelves. I need more. I have 8 bookshelves, but not all of them are comics.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I thought there were more than that.
Yeah, so some of them are actual books. Some of them are mine.
One shelf not being comics doesn't constitute that the entire bookshelf is not comics.
That's fair.
I like how you said that he got me.
Yeah.
Damn. He saw through my clever ploy.
Yeah. So today we are going to talk about Cyber, the man who traumatized Wolverine. Or, more interestingly, as I was reminded of as reading this, my title for this episode, Wolverine was an inside job. So, who is this guy? Cyber shows up. He shows up in the 90s as an antagonist of Wolverine when he's in his own series, especially running around Madripoor, which is their fake East Asia, where Wolverine called himself Patch and ran a bar and had an eye patch and pretended he wasn't Wolverine.
Is that the eye patch one that's in Deadpool?
Yes.
Nice.
And the best part about that is, by 2 years in, he at some point, somebody says, oh, you got your claws out. Can I stop pretending I don't know you're Wolverine now? What? Yeah, literally everybody knows. What the? You've just been letting me make a fool of myself? Look, Wolverine, a guy with metal claws and a tendency to kill people says, call me Patch. You call him Patch.
Yeah.
We were just playing along, man.
You didn't even change your hair. Come on.
Yeah, he didn't. He just wore a suit and an eye patch.
It's not enough. You have to have a whole pair of glasses for it to count as a secret identity.
Yeah.
Obvious.
And you have to at least have different mannerisms, too.
And then ran around, in the night as Wolverine, with his claws out and shit. And people, hey, this guy has 3 stab wounds in a very neat pattern in his chest. And was antagonizing that guy who calls people Bub and looks like Wolverine and got shot 7 times yesterday and is just fine. Wonder what's up there. Oh, well, he's paying us money, so we don't care. Because it's corrupt. Anyway, Cyber shows up as an enemy there. He gets brought back later, killed off for a little bit because, comics. His main thing is he's got some super strength, he's got some super speed, your standard villain package. But he can also psionically track anybody. So he gets a read of your aura and can hunt you down. And it's later revealed he can make people do stuff. Not like literally control them, he can just kind of be a really, really, really bad influence. Like, you know, that thing you did to the woman in Boston. That is a thing he says to one of the characters, and that's all they say about it, but like then the guy tries to shoot him. So he makes people do atrocious things and brings out the worst in them.
So he's cocaine.
Basically, yeah. So he came back in the Wolverine Origins series in late 2000s, about 2006, 2007 to about 2009. The art's done by Steve Dillon, who did Preacher, which is how I know him, and has a very distinctive, like, he draws chins that are very immediately noticeable, as with this character. Like that you recognize that face. That's that's just his facial style, and it's everywhere. Yeah, he did Preacher, which was about a preacher with the power of God hunting down God and shooting him in the face. So, you know, very 90s. This one is very 2000s. It's about Wolverine's origins. He gets his memory back and then goes figuring out his past. And a guy called Romulus, who is behind it all and is talking about, like, I'm actually a descendant of Homo canis, who were descended from wolves, not apes. And you are one of them, which was a thing that they did in Universe X, or Earth X, which was another offshoot. So
there are no wolves in Fenris.
Yeah. Turns out he was lying the whole time. It was all bullshit. He was just a guy with a healing factor and a Wolverine fetish. That's really all it was. And he had been dicking with Wolverine for decades because he was horny for a short hairy mutant. Not just regular horny, but like wanted to be him horny, which is still another level of horniness, just slightly modified. So yeah, in this series, Cyber comes back, and you find out some of his past. And first things first, I want you to... Oh, you also meet Wolverine's son, Daken. Do you guys know him? He is Wolverine with a mohawk. He has the claws, but he has 2 on his wrist, 2 out of his knuckles, and 1 out of the inside of his wrist. So it's a weird trio combination.
So he's part Wolverine, part Assassin's Creed.
Yes. Also, not... X-23 was slightly similar, but she had 2 in her knuckles and then 1 in her toes, which is slightly less stupid. X-23 is a better character than Daken. I'm just going to say it. But here is a picture of Cyber. I will try to make this picture, I guess, our thumbnail for the Spotify, or bring it up on the YouTube or whatever. I'll try to get it where people can see it.
Probably attach it as a comment.
Yeah. Tell me what you think of this character. He's the guy in blue. The other guy he's standing next to is Daken.
He kind of looks like a Wish version of the Winter Soldier.
The Make-A-Wish version?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colossus would be.
I thought you meant like ordering from Wish.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what you meant. Like Wish.com, yeah, okay, I get you. I am out of touch. My pop culture references are old.
Or all comic books.
That too.
I just keep thinking that he looks like he's stuck, like trapped in a condom. I can't get away. Like his face looks like he's uncomfortably stuck in his mask.
That is not entirely inaccurate. His shtick, his shtick is that his whole body, aside from the super strength and the psionic tracking, he got his entire body coated in adamantium, except for his face. You know, the part that's not vulnerable at all. So, like, people have killed him.
Still, right?
This is true, but people have killed him multiple times by, like, I'm going to throw a flesh-eating virus in your face. What you going to do now? Oh, look, you're a hollow shell. Well done. I'm going to use this for something practical.
I'm going to wear you.
Yeah, or just melt you down and, like...
turn you into armor.
Yeah. So he, his whole shtick is he's covered in adamantium, and he traumatized Wolverine. So the way it went down, the first time you see him, he's a Pinkerton agent, which lets you know he sucks right from the get-go. I'm getting... Gabe is nodding yes, because Gabe knows more history, and Van is looking confused. The Pinkertons were the precursor to the Secret Service. They were the Pinkerton detectives. They actually guarded Lincoln and failed. Although they did get him... they did some good things and then they failed. Or did some competent things. They also were, in the late 1800s, basically mercenary cops.
They sound like they're the Looney Tunes.
The name is quite Looney Tunes. But they beat strikers and labor unionists to death, lit them on fire, shot them, gunned them down in the street. They were again hired killers for the government or the businesses or whoever was hiring them. They still exist today and are less. I won't say they're any better because they're a private military company. They're not, but they are at least less actively overt in American politics. Probably in some other country we don't know about, really representing America.
Yeah.
But back to comics and no politics here. He was a Pinkerton agent who was definitely on trial for just all the murders, killed a bunch of women in extra awful ways that they couldn't talk about in Marvel Comics, and trapped 14 kids in a schoolhouse and lit it on fire, and then got his men to do similar shit. That's what I was talking about. He's talking to the men as he's being tried. I was just doing my job along with my buddies, like that girl back in Boston. Hey, Billy. And the guy's like, you made us do that. You son of a bitch. And some of it is, clearly cowardice and them being just bastards. But some of it is also accurate and mutant powers. So yeah, he's sentenced to hang till dead. And then Sabretooth breaks him out on orders of the government. Specifically Department Plus, which is, or Weapon Plus, I'm sorry.
Weapon Plus, not Weapon X?
Weapon X is an offshoot of Weapon Plus. It's revealed in...
It's 45
What did
degrees.
he say?
Well,
It's 45 degrees off.
so Wolverine isn't Weapon X. He's Weapon 10. So he's the 10th incarnation of the Weapon Plus program. And then Weapon X got its own government funding and became an offshoot. But this was done in the 2000s as a retcon by Grant Morrison, who is awesome but also very weird. Active wizard. Subject for another episode. Grant Morrison, my favorite. So Captain America was Weapon 1. And then Luke Cage was, I think, Weapon 7. Weapon X was Wolverine, and also involved Deadpool as an offshoot, and they did stuff with Sabretooth when they became their own thing. Mm-hmm. And then Phantom X, who is a French mutant / sentinel / kind of, bandity good guy from the 2000s, is Weapon 13. And they've since done a few others, and it's been a thing. So yeah, Weapon Plus hires him and says, look, we know you can make people do just awful things. We want you to work your magic on all these recruits. You can do whatever the fuck you want, no oversight whatsoever, blank check, have fun. That's your payment. But do especially, you see that little hairy guy? Him. Make him a killer. Make him the worst of the worst. And he does. And he beats the shit out of Wolverine day after day after day. And just because he's stronger and he's faster, and he can't heal as well, but he can fuck him up just as bad. And in here at one point, they finally, because it's a military base, Wolverine finally gets pushed too far and squares up to fight him, and they do the rush at each other thing, and they come apart, and he's holding Wolverine's eye. Hey, you lose something, bitch. And then he kills Wolverine's girlfriend.
Wow.
And the thing is, he comes back. Wolverine is hunting his son Daken, who he's just found out about, who has been trained by Romulus to be Wolverine with sans morals. He also finds out that the whole missing memories thing was Wolverine. He asked Professor Xavier to wipe his mind of all the horrible shit he did. So Cyber is also hunting Daken because he also trained Daken. And is yeah, he's the best one I ever trained back in the 50s. He didn't even need encouragement. He wanted to do this shit. He had fun. So I was real proud of that one. But I am going to fuck him up because I'm evil. So different evil parties working at ends, at cross purposes. Cyber comes back. He has been killed, but possesses the body of a young boy or man who is mentally deficient, barely functions as a toddler, but is in the body of a 6'6", huge beefcake who like kills a horse with one punch on accident because the horse he bit him and he got mad. So he takes over this kid's body with psychic bullshit, and then puts adamantium back on his skin because why not? And goes hunting for Wolverine. Shows up, smacks Wolverine around some more. Wolverine has like blue screen of death when he shows up, and then he has a heart attack. Cyber, because it turns out, little kid with the body of a grown-ass man growing that quickly kind of puts a strain on your heart. And he didn't know that when he stole the body and killed the kid's dad. So, yeah, that's a problem. Wolverine saves his life and pumps him for information. Long way to get to that. He is pulling information from this guy and gets explained that, I did this. I was ordered to by the government. Sabretooth got me out. I was hired to fuck you up personally. And your girlfriend... Yeah, I did kill your girlfriend. On orders. The government told me to kill your girlfriend. Who was working for the government. She wasn't just part of the program. She was hired for you. And then I killed her for you. And every one of your girlfriends since then, for your whole tragic life of all these women died, but when I was an agent, every one of those has been a government agent that we took out on government orders. All to drive you crazy into a killer frenzy. So yeah, Wolverine was an inside job. And this is the reason I say he's boring is because this is 3 pages of information. It has huge ramifications, but Cyber is not much of a character. Wolverine gets some carbonadium, which is the stuff that can neutralize healing factors, and has the Tinkerer, since adamantium skin can't do open heart surgery, puts an external pacemaker on him with that stuff in it that is also going to poison him to death and kill radiation poisoning and just murder him, and then just fucks off. So yeah, guy is not actually much of a character, but he does hint at something a lot deeper, indicates it, which is, again, Wolverine is an inside job set up by the government, and Romulus pulling the strings. So yeah, thoughts?
Wow.
That sucks.
Yeah, that took a turn.
He killed every single one of Wolverine's girlfriends?
Not everyone. So Rose, the one he was in love with in the 1800s when he was James Howlett before he got the claws, Wolverine actually killed her on accident. And there have been a few I think
there a Japanese chick?
Yeah, Muriko.
Yeah.
Who was killed by her father. But so once he joined the X-Men and got out from under government control, less so in the recent days, but
okay.
The whole time he was an agent and had these memories that are scattered of, oh yeah, I was living in the woods and had this girlfriend who was Indian and called Silver Fox, because not at all, stereotypical. But yeah, it was totally cool and she was awesome and we hunted stuff and then somebody killed her and I got mad and I killed some people. It's yeah, the government killed her to set you off, you fucking animal. Which is,
wow.
A,
that's brutal.
That is brutal. B, I think it's interesting because I've been writing a book about comics. More plugs on that when it's near publication, I promise. But one of the things I read was a decade by decade history of comics, and it talked about the 2000s, 2000 to 2010, as a decade of fear, as responding to 9/11 and the Patriot Act and government surveillance and Islamophobia and all that. And thinking back on it, yeah, it was a scary fucking time. And everybody was afraid of everything. And so I think this is indicative of that time period. It can't just be that Wolverine had tragedy or that he had enemies. There also has to be an agency behind it. It has to be sinister. It has to be intentional.
Yeah, a grand conspiracy.
And
the
part
level of the level of institutional being involved in your personal life that's so fucked up, that they got that personal with it, because that was people weren't just scared about what had happened on 9/11. People were scared about what the government was going to become as a result.
And there's that, but there's also kind of the 9/11 truther shit. That's why I like Wolverine as an inside job, because that whole thing of it was the government. That's because you're afraid. Because it can't just be a random group acting on the other part of the world that just totally fucked us, out of nowhere. Well, there are plenty of stuff, but it can't just be random. It can't just be independent agency. there has to be some higher power controlling it. Even if that power's evil, at least someone's in charge. And that's kind of the basis of all conspiracies, but I think that's... Like, it can't just be Wolverine has tragedy and has enemies. No, somebody was making him. Sinister, spooky. So I picked up on that, and I thought that was kind of neat. Also, Daken is bisexual, but it's 2000s bisexual, so like that's how you know he's evil, because he likes the men.
That's bad.
Yeah, it's not entirely like that, but it's like only the bad guys can be, non-straight, and it's in a way, or the sexy women. But even then, it's with the hint of a threesome, which is all natural and wholesome. The way God intended. Hey, the Bible says it's one man and up to 300 wives and 700 concubines, damn it. Hey, Solomon, look it up.
That's a whole other conversation. But yes, it's
as I said, I wouldn't get political. I lied.
You did, yes.
Yeah,
You did lie.
but go ahead.
Well, yeah, just that the shaping of that kind of massive, that there has to be some kind of bigger organizational plan behind it. It's also that, like, if it's our government that's doing it, then at least the government that is ostensibly supposed to protect us is strong enough to do nonsense like this.
Yeah.
And there is a certain sense of comfort that comes from that as well, weirdly.
I mean, they're bastards, but they're protecting us as bastards. So as long as we, stand in line and aren't the ones who are in any special or minority groups with their dangerous skin tones,
Yes.
we should be just fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of neat, and yeah, it was weird to pick up on that because I definitely didn't see it the first time because I read it when it was still fairly new. Of like, yeah, of course the government's doing sinister shit. That's what governments do. They know that I checked out this book and are aware of what page I'm on, and they wonder about what I think about it.
It definitely feeds in those fears, like that. But that's, oh my god, that's crazy. I fully understand why he was like, instead of doing therapy and something healthy, just make me forget this existed.
Yeah,
was an alternative he was willing to take.
Well, also, to be fair, the phrase Wolverine and do something healthy do not occur in the same sentence.
That's true.
Like, I have feelings. I'm going to stab someone about it. I like this girl. I'm going to cut off the top of her boyfriend's car. That's how people get introduced to me. Episode 1. Made you a convertible. Like, you're an asshole, man.
Make that girl a convertible. Girls love convertibles.
I do, as I also kind of love reading back in the old comics, having grown up with it. In case any of you didn't get the reference, what are you doing here? But that was X-Men the animated series we were talking about. And I love having grown up on that. And like, it should be Wolverine and Jean. They're really the ones who belong together. Mm-hmm. And then you read the comics like, no, Wolverine's just a fucking creep. Like, at one point, she calls him a disgusting little man. Like, I don't like you at all. I've been polite to you, and it's been very difficult. Stay the fuck away from me. Anyway, back to Wolverine and the stabbing.
And the terribleness.
And the terribleness. And the life is tragedy because of the government.
Yeah. No, and Jean not liking Wolverine does put a whole different spin on that. Because, yeah, in the 80s show, I was also, like, Camp Wolverine. And, as a little hairy kid myself, I was like, yeah, little hairy guy, let's go.
I was the kid the girls didn't like, so I was down for it.
There you go, right?
And,
exactly.
And I will also note that...
I just didn't like Cyclops.
Yeah, Cyclops was a douche.
Yeah.
In
the show...
And in the original comics, like the 60s ones when it was Cyclops and Jean and Iceman and Angel and Beast, Cyclops is like the brooding loner and like the smart guy. And he's actually kind of tragic and interesting, and then he just becomes the spoiled rich boy. Like, I can't take my glasses off. Oh no, you have to look like a spoiled rich kid in aviators everywhere you go. How tragic for you.
Yeah. And then X-Men 97 happened, and he got cool again.
Yeah. I will say, though, I will also say X3, the very not good third X-Men movie, also had a definite reaction to the 90s TV show. Because they killed Cyclops in the first 10 minutes. Yeah. It was like, you grew up watching the cartoon.
Yeah.
Everybody who grew up watching the cartoon cheered for Cyclops getting murdered.
Yeah.
They did
it. In those movies, it was the same Cyclops.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're pro Cyclops murder. Wolverine.
Unless you're talking about 97.
Yeah, unless you're talking about 97 when he gets cool again.
Yeah.
And starts doing like anime badass slides with his eyes. Like, why weren't you doing that the whole time?
Yeah.
That was so much better than everything you were.
Yeah.
Wait, so he's really only in like 3 pages, or you get all the information in 3 pages?
The flashback is about 3 pages. He shows up for other bits, and there's a bit more of the story. But this collection is 5 comics out of like a 60 comic run or 50 comic run for Wolverine Origins, and he's only in like these 5. And then he shows up a little bit later, and then gets killed, and then gets unkilled again. He's a pretty D-list villain, but he has that interesting backstory that nobody ever really capitalizes on. So yeah, he's not a big deal, and he's kind of dull. His suit is just bland and blue and metal, and really nondescript. But again, like he opens up a very interesting past.
Yeah, he's a monster, and I guess they couldn't keep him around for that long. I don't know.
Yeah,
He's like an actual monster.
yeah, he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Several of the guys like Sarah did. Like, I eat people, and you disturb me. So can we not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The whole trapping 14 kids in a school and then burning it down. I don't have words for how messed up that is.
Well, in his defense, their parents wanted rights. So really, whose fault is it?
Yeah. You said, well, in his defense, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to like this. And I was right. That hurt my brain. Yeah. All right, so Cyber sucks.
Cyber sucks.
Cyber sucks, and Wolverine's
sounds
trauma
like.
is paid for by your tax dollars. So, yeah.
Which also sucks.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next point. Register to vote, kids.
That is... I will say, the unions are the reason we have weekends, and there was a time when it was legal in this country to just shoot them dead because they were dirty, dirty communists. Some of them were communists. Many of them were dirty, but that's a completely different thing. It has to do with plumbing. And
or being a coal miner.
being a coal miner, living in tenements. There's a number of reasons for dirty, but those are all legitimate. So yeah, there was a time when you could just shoot people for wanting better rights. Let's not have that again.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too political, but shooting people for rights, bad. I think that's a hill I'm willing to die on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty... And speaking of, just because we did mention Captain America once earlier.
Yeah.
Like, it's very American. Like, you have rights. That's kind of our whole thing. There's a bill of them. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's kind of a big deal.
We are... rights and freedoms, big thing for America.
Yeah,
Very
freedom.
pro that.
Yes, we are pro-freedom and pro-rights.
Well, I think having alienated our viewers with that extremely divisive message about freedom, because clearly that's going to split the audience, I think we're good to wrap up. Anything else?
Well, I mean, so we talked about freedom, and then we also ostracized, conspiracy theorists?
Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah, I can't wait to see who we piss off next.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Although, just like, as the plug, I have several favorite conspiracies that I myself am a big fan of. So,
Yeah, and the fun part is seeing
Try
the
not to take ourselves
conspiracy
too seriously.
theories that are actually true. Like, there is actual coteries that tried to overthrow the U.S. government. The business plot. It's a thing that happened. So yeah, fun.
At least once.
At least once. Yeah. Anyway, before we say anything else to get ourselves in trouble, have a good one,
That should
everybody.
put us on a good list. That'll
Yeah.
put us on a list.
All right. Take care.